This is a video lesson for Lesson 12 of our Angles and Planar Figures unit. The Lesson 12 learning target is I can recognize lines of symmetry for given two-dimensional figures and identify line-symmetric figures and draw lines of symmetry. So we're going to be looking at this concept of symmetry, seeing if we can find shapes that have one or multiple lines of symmetry, and then also do a little bit of drawing of figures that have lines of symmetry. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be looking at identifying lines of symmetry in different shapes. In class, when we were talking about symmetry, we gave some examples of folding a square and rectangular sticky note, and how if we fold it a specific way where the sides line up and we create two halves that are mirror images of one another, we've created a line of symmetry. And so we can do that same thing with the shapes that we have in front of us right here. So I have a pentagon right here and a trapezoid right here. And both of these shapes have lines of symmetry, and some actually have, or one of them actually has more than one line of symmetry. So let's take a look at how we can identify these lines of symmetry. So we want to be looking and kind of imagining it in our head about which lines we could fold these shapes on so that they will be mirror images on both sides of the line. So when I'm looking at this pentagon here, I see one line of symmetry that kind of goes right down the middle here. So I can usually tell as soon as I've drawn my line. If I look at this and I imagine myself folding that shape, then I would say, yeah, that's probably going to fold right on top of each other, because each half, this half and this half, are mirror images of one another. But I'm not quite done with the lines of symmetry for this shape, because if I rotate the image, or if I look at it from a different perspective, I can also see that there is a line of symmetry right here as well. So it's kind of a similar fold, except for I just rotated the shape. If I keep looking, there's actually more than one line of symmetry. I'm going to keep finding all the rest of the lines of symmetry. There's one right here as well. I fold it along that line. And there's one here as well. And then actually there's one more that's right here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines of symmetry. This one isn't 6 because it's actually the same as this first one right here, but there are 5 lines of symmetry in this pentagon. And the way I was able to do that is just by looking at the shape in a bunch of different ways to see if I could cut it in half where I create two mirror images on both sides. So interestingly enough, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides to a pentagon as well. So it's kind of interesting that it also has 5 lines of symmetry. So moving on to our trapezoid here, if we look, we can, most obvious way, we could cut this one in half, right down the middle right here, and that creates a line of symmetry. I'm trying to be as accurate as possible, but right down the middle there, it's going to create a line of symmetry. And then I'm looking at diagonally, I'm thinking, is this way going to work? That's not really going to fold right in half, because this corner right here would end up somewhere down here, which isn't exactly a mirror image. So I know that's not a line of symmetry. I can go ahead and get rid of that line. So it looks like this is my only line of symmetry. So it looks like the trapezoid only has one line of symmetry in it. So there's a couple examples of drawing some different lines of symmetry on different shapes. So it's important to know that sometimes shapes are going to have more than one, like our pentagon here, and sometimes they just have one, like our trapezoid here. Some shapes have no lines of symmetry, so it's important to keep a lookout for them all. But these lines of symmetry aren't just limited to geometrical shapes. We also see lines of symmetry in letters. We have a couple letters here, A and H. And we can see that we have a line of symmetry that goes right down the middle here of the letter A, because it creates two halves that are mirror images of each other. We could fold it along that line, and this letter A would line up right on itself. So we have one line of symmetry here. And then the letter H as well, we have that same line of symmetry right down the middle. So there's one line. Letter H is kind of special though because it actually has another line of symmetry if we cut it in down the middle the opposite direction. So we have two lines of symmetry here, so we have a total of 2 lines of symmetry in the letter H. And it's not just limited to letters and geometrical shapes. We can also find lines of symmetry in just everyday figures. So I have a heart and a butterfly here. And we can see a heart has a line of symmetry right down the middle here. If you've ever cut out a heart out of a piece of paper, you might have folded that paper in half and cut out just half of the heart, and when you unfold it, you get a full heart, and you've just created a line of symmetry. So we have one line of symmetry right here. And this butterfly as well has a line of symmetry right down the middle. If we were to fold it down that line, it would match up with the opposite side. We've created 2 sides that are mirror images of each other. So that's one line of symmetry. So finding these lines of symmetry is all about just imagining what would happen if I folded the shape over on itself. Would the sides match up exactly? Then yes, it's a line of symmetry. If they don't, then it's not a line of symmetry. Okay. So finally, we're going to look at drawing lines of symmetry. And so what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be completing these shapes using this dashed line right here as the line of symmetry for the shape. So right now these shapes are incomplete. So we are going to complete the drawings of both of these shapes and create this dashed line as the line of symmetry. So in order to do this, I'm going to try to create a mirror image on this side of the graph or the grid paper that matches this image over here. So I see it goes 1, 2, 3, 4 units up. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 units down, and then I'm going to match it so it's the same length, just like that, and then match it so it's the same length over here. So now I have this line of symmetry right here on this dashed line, because this half right here, this half number 1 is going to be a mirror image to half number 2. And so we've just created one line of symmetry. Same thing with the second shape right here. We're able to take a look and see we have 1, 2 units going to the left, so we're going to go 1, 2 units to the right. And then when we're drawing these diagonal lines, it's important to see how far it goes over and then how far it goes down. So I'm actually going to put a point right here. So it looks like we're going to go over 2 and down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go over 2 and then down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to end up right here. Then I can just draw that straight line that goes down to that point. And then I'm just going to complete the shape going back to that line of symmetry. And I can erase all of this extra stuff on the outside so I can clearly see that I have a shape that has a line of symmetry right down the middle right here. And so it has one line of symmetry that I've created. So there you have it, a little introduction to identifying, drawing, and recognizing shapes that have lines of symmetry or more than one lines of symmetry. At this point you should be able to answer any of the questions in the Lesson 12 problem set. But if you get stuck with this concept of symmetry, you can always come back and re-watch any parts of the video that you need to. So good luck with the problem set, and thanks for watching.